The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a coiled snake. I'd been staring at it for 20 minutes, my coffee growing cold in my hand, while rain drummed against the windows of what used to be my sanctuary. Inside that envelope was the deed to this house, my house. The one my late wife Margaret and I had spent 32 years making into a home. The one where we'd raised our daughter Rachel, where we'd celebrated Christmases and birthdays, where Margaret had taken her last breath 3 years ago, and now my daughter wanted me gone. I'm Robert Mitchell, 64 years old, retired aerospace engineer. I'd spent 40 years designing navigation systems, solving problems that most people couldn't even comprehend. But I never imagined I'd need to solve the problem of my own daughter trying to erase me from my own life. It started 6 months ago when Rachel called, her voice tight with that particular strain I'd come to recognize as financial panic. "Dad, we need to talk. Can Marcus and I come over?" Marcus, my son-in-law of 3 years. The man who'd charmed his way into my daughter's life with his easy smile and grand promises, investment consultant, he'd called himself. Though from what I could tell, the only thing he invested in successfully was spending other people's money. They arrived that evening, Rachel's eyes red-rimmed, Marcus wearing that earnest expression he pulled out whenever he needed something. "Dad, we're in trouble," Rachel began, twisting her wedding ring. "We're going to lose the condo. The market hasn't been good to Marcus's firm, and we're 3 months behind on the mortgage." I'd set down my newspaper, already knowing where this was headed. "How much?" 15,000 would catch us up, Marcus interjected, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Just until my commission comes through next month. You know I'm good for it, Robert." He wasn't good for it. I knew that. But when I looked at Rachel's face, I saw the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest while I read engineering journals. The one who'd held Margaret's hand during those final weeks in hospice. "I'll write you a check," I'd said. That was my first mistake. The second came a month later when they needed help with Rachel's car. Then Marcus's dental emergency. Then the condo association fees. Then. Each time, it was always temporary. Each time, I told myself I was helping my daughter, not enabling her husband's inability to provide. By month 4, I'd given them $43,000. "Dad, we have an idea," Rachel said during one of their increasingly frequent visits. She exchanged a glance with Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "What if we all lived together? Just for a while. We could rent out the condo, use that income to pay down our debts. You have all this space here, and honestly, you're alone in this big house. It would be good for everyone." My gut clenched. Every instinct I'd honed over decades of problem-solving screamed warning signals, but Rachel's eyes pleaded, and the house was too quiet since Margaret died. "Temporarily," I heard myself say. 6 months. Then you get back on your feet and move out. Marcus's handshake was firm, his smile broad. 6 months, tops. You won't even know we're here." He was wrong about that. The first week wasn't terrible. Rachel cooked a few dinners, we watched movies together, and Marcus was mostly at work. I started to think maybe I'd been too cynical. Week 2, I came home from my Thursday golf game to find my study rearranged. My desk, the oak one Margaret had given me for our 10th anniversary, had been shoved into the corner to make room for Marcus's trading monitors. "Hope you don't mind," Marcus said when I stood in the doorway. "I needed a proper setup, client calls and all that. You weren't using all this space anyway." I minded. But Rachel was busy in the kitchen, humming, and I didn't want to start a fight. Week 3, my routine changed. I'd always had breakfast at 6, then read the paper in peace. Now Marcus was in the kitchen by 5:30, conference calls with overseas clients that required absolute silence. I started eating cereal in my bedroom. By week 4, Marcus had opinions about my grocery choices. "Robert, we're trying to eat cleaner. Could you not buy all that processed food? It's bad for Rachel's digestion." The processed food in question was the wheat bread I'd been eating for 30 years. Week 6, the real shift happened. I'd come back from the hardware store to find Marcus in the garage, sorting through boxes. My boxes. The ones clearly labeled Margaret's belongings in my handwriting. "What are you doing?" He didn't even look up. Rachel said we could use this space. "There's a lot of junk in here, Robert. Time to let go of the past." Junk. He'd called Margaret's carefully preserved items junk. "Those are not yours to touch." My voice came out harder than I'd intended. Marcus straightened, his expression shifting into something I hadn't seen before. Cold. calculating. This is a shared space now. We all need to make adjustments. Rachel agrees we need the garage for storage. That night, I tried to talk to Rachel about boundaries. Dad, Marcus is just trying to help. You've let this house become a museum to Mom. Maybe it's time to move forward. Move forward. As if 32 years could be boxed up and donated because my son-in-law needed storage. The 6-month mark came and went. When I brought it up, Rachel cried. We're so close to turning things around, Dad. Marcus has a huge deal coming through. Just 2 more months. 2 months became 4. 4 became 6. They stopped asking before changing things. My recliner disappeared, replaced with something more modern that hurt my back. The photos of Margaret in the living room were moved to the hallway, then to a box in the basement. Too cluttered, Rachel explained. Marcus started treating me like a guest in my own home. He'd commandeer the TV for his sports, wave me off when I tried to join conversations, sigh heavily whenever I made noise before 9 a.m. on weekends. Could you keep it down? Some of us actually work hard during the week, he'd say, as if my 40 years of engineering was kindergarten compared to his mysterious investment consulting. I started noticing other things. Mail that didn't belong to me arriving at my address. Marcus's car payments, credit card bills, all using my home as the mailing address. When I questioned it, he shrugged. Just temporary, until we update our addresses. But they'd been here 11 months. The final straw came on a Tuesday morning in May. I'd gotten up early, planning to work in the garden. Margaret had loved the roses, and I'd kept them going in her memory. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Rachel and Marcus came downstairs. Marcus was already in a mood. I could see it in the set of his jaw, the way he yanked open the refrigerator. We need to talk, he announced, pulling out a chair and sitting down heavily. Rachel stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder, not meeting my eyes. My hands stilled on the coffee pot. About what? This arrangement isn't working, Robert. I turned slowly. What arrangement? This whole situation. You living here, Rachel and I, trying to build our lives. It's creating tension. Rachel's stressed all the time, trying to keep peace between us. Heat crept up my neck. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I understand. I'm causing tension by living in my own house? Dad, Rachel started, but Marcus cut her off. It's not about whose name is on the deed. It's about what's healthy for Rachel. For our marriage. We need our own space, our own life, without constant supervision. Supervision? The word came out sharp. I've bent over backward to give you privacy, Marcus. I've changed my entire routine, given up my study, watched you rearrange my home. See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Everything is yours. Your home, your rules, your way. Rachel can't even breathe without worrying about disturbing you. I looked at my daughter. She was studying the floor tiles, the ones Margaret and I had picked out together. Rachel? She finally looked up, and what I saw in her eyes made my stomach drop. Dad, maybe Marcus is right. Maybe it would be better if you found somewhere else to stay. Just for a while, until we can figure things out. The room went silent except for the clock ticking on the wall. That clock had been a wedding gift from Margaret's parents. You want me to leave? It wasn't a question, but Rachel answered anyway. Not permanently. Just Marcus and I need space to work on things. We're having problems, and I think having you here is making it harder. What problems? What exactly am I doing that's making your marriage harder? Marcus stood up, his chair scraping loudly. You want a list, Robert? Fine. You make everything about you. Your schedule, your preferences, your dead wife's memory. This is supposed to be Rachel's home too, but it's like living in a shrine. She deserves better than playing housekeeper to your grief. Something in my chest cracked. Get out. Dad. Not you, Rachel. Him. Marcus, get out of my kitchen. Now. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. You can't kick me out. I live here. We pay rent. You've never paid me a single dollar. Not one. We pay groceries, utilities, with my credit card. The one Rachel has because she's my daughter and I trusted her. The color drained from Rachel's face. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's joint household expenses, he blustered. We all live here. We all share costs. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward them. $43,000 in direct payments to you two. Another $22,000 in credit card charges since you moved in. You want to show me where your contributions are? Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. Dad, I didn't realize it was that much. Of course you didn't. Because Marcus handles the finances, doesn't he? Marcus's expression shifted again, from defensive to something uglier. Those were investments in our future. In your granddaughter's future. That stopped me cold. What granddaughter? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I'm pregnant, Dad. 3 months. We were going to tell you, but things have been so tense. My first grandchild. I should have felt joy. Instead, I felt a weight settle over my shoulders. Congratulations, I managed. Truly. But that doesn't change the situation here. Doesn't change it? Marcus stepped closer, his voice rising. That changes everything. Rachel needs stability. She needs a home where she can relax, where she's not walking on eggshells around her father's grief. So here's what's going to happen, Robert. You're going to be reasonable. You're going to either adjust your attitude, or you're going to find somewhere else to go. The audacity hung in the air like smoke. This is my house. My name on the deed, my name on the mortgage that's been paid off for 12 years. You don't get to kick me out. Then make a choice, Marcus said coldly. Be a helpful grandfather who supports his pregnant daughter, or be a bitter old man who puts his ego above his family. Because Rachel needs me, and if you force her to choose between us, you'll lose. I looked at my daughter, waiting for her to say something, to tell her husband he was out of line, to remember that I'd never put my ego above family, that I'd sacrificed more for her than Marcus could comprehend. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Rachel, I said quietly, is this what you want? Her voice was barely a whisper. I just want peace, Dad. I want my husband and my father to get along. Why does that have to be so hard? Because your husband is demanding I submit or leave my own home. He's not demanding, Dad, you're twisting his words. He just wants us to be a family. We were a family. Before he decided I was in his way. Marcus moved to Rachel's side, putting his arm around her. See what he's doing? Making this about him when you're pregnant and stressed. This is exactly the toxic environment we need to protect our child from. That word, toxic. He was calling me toxic. I'll make this simple, I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. You have 2 choices, Marcus. You and Rachel can move back to your condo, or you can stay here and show me the respect this situation deserves. What you cannot do is push me out of my own home. Rachel? Marcus turned to her. Tell him. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Dad, please, can't you just try? For the baby? For me? And there it was, the ultimatum wrapped in tears and manipulation. Choose to be trampled, or choose to be the villain. I'd solved complex navigation problems, worked out equations that most people couldn't begin to understand. But I couldn't solve this, couldn't calculate a path where I didn't lose. I need to think, I said, and walked out. I spent that day driving, past the parks where I'd pushed Rachel on swings, past the ice cream shop where we'd celebrated every report card, past the hospital where Margaret and I had paced hallways waiting for Rachel to be born. When I came home that evening, my bedroom door was closed. I opened it to find my clothes packed in suitcases, my personal items boxed up. Rachel was sitting on the guest room bed, the room that used to be hers, surrounded by my things. What is this? Dad, we thought it would be easier if you took the guest room. Just until the baby comes. This room is bigger, better for a nursery. You packed my things. Marcus did. He was trying to help. Help. I sat down heavily on the guest bed, looking at my life stuffed into boxes and luggage. Rachel, what's happened to you? Nothing's happened to me. I grew up. I got married. I'm starting a family. I need my husband's support. What about your father's? She stood up, her hands on her belly, and for a moment she looked just like Margaret. I need you to be reasonable, Dad. I need you to understand that I have to put my marriage first. Marcus is right. We need our own space. I'm asking you, as your daughter, to please find somewhere else to stay, just for a little while, until after the baby comes and we get settled. The room spun. You're choosing him. I'm choosing my family. I'm your family. And so is he. Her voice cracked. Why can't you see that? Why do you have to make everything so difficult? Mom would have wanted you to be happy for me, to support my marriage, not to fight it every step of the way. Don't bring your mother into this, I wanted to say. Margaret would never have stood for this, but Rachel looked exhausted and scared, and I was so tired of fighting. How long? What? How long do you need me gone? Hope flashed across her face. Just a few months, maybe 6. Until we get into a routine with the baby, figure out our finances. 6 months. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. The same 6 months you promised when you moved in? This is different. Is it? She didn't answer. I stood up, pulled my phone from my pocket, and started making calls. Rachel watched, her expression shifting from relief to concern as I booked a hotel room, called my lawyer, contacted my financial advisor. Dad, what are you doing? What you asked. Leaving. You don't have to leave tonight. Actually, I think I do. Before I lose anything else. I loaded my car in silence. Marcus stayed in the living room, watching TV like nothing had happened. Rachel hovered in the doorway, crying, trying to help carry things until I asked her to stop. Dad, please. Can't we talk about this? We did talk. You made your choice clear. It's not forever. Rachel. I set down the box I was carrying and looked at her. Really looked at her. When did you start believing his lies? He's not lying. We really do need space. Not about that. About me. When did you start believing I was the problem? She didn't answer, just wrapped her arms around herself. I finished loading the car, came back inside for one last thing. The envelope on the counter. The deed. Don't do anything stupid, Dad, Marcus called from the living room. I didn't respond, just picked up the envelope and walked out. The hotel was nice enough. Corporate extended stay place, the kind I'd used for work trips. Clean, impersonal, exactly what I needed. I didn't sleep that night, just sat on the bed, the deed in my lap, trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong. How I'd raised a daughter who could look me in the eye and choose a man who'd given her nothing but debt over a father who'd given her everything. My phone started ringing around midnight. Rachel! I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. At 6 a.m., Marcus texted, Need to know when you're planning to continue mortgage payments. Bank called about upcoming payment. I stared at that text for a long time. There was no mortgage. I'd paid off the house 12 years ago, 2 years before Margaret died. It had been her dream to own our home outright, to never worry about losing it, which meant Marcus had been lying to Rachel about mortgage payments, about where my money was going. I called my lawyer at 9 a.m. Robert, good to hear from you. How can I help? I need you to look into something. My son-in-law, Marcus Brennan, investment consultant, supposedly. I want to know if he's legitimate. That'll take a few days. I have time. I spent the week walking. The hotel was near the waterfront, and I logged miles along the marina, thinking, processing, grieving, really, for the daughter I thought I'd raised. Rachel called 14 times that first day. By day 3, it was down to 3 calls. By day 5, silence. Marcus texted every day about bills, payments, things that needed fixing at the house. I didn't respond. My lawyer called on day 7. Robert, we need to meet. In person. His office was downtown, all glass and leather. He spread papers across his desk with the careful expression of someone delivering bad news. Marcus Brennan is not an investment consultant. His license was revoked 4 years ago for fraud. He's been sued by at least 7 clients, settled out of court on 5 of them. The other 2 got judgments against him totaling $200,000. The room tilted. And his current job? As far as I can tell, he doesn't have one. No tax returns showing income for the last 3 years. He's been living off my daughter. Living off you, more accurately. Every dollar he's spent has been yours. I thought about the trading monitors, the conference calls with overseas clients, the mysterious commission that was always coming through next month. All lies. There's more, my lawyer continued. The condo you thought they were renting out? Foreclosed 6 months ago. They didn't own it. They were renting, stopped paying, got evicted. That's why they moved in with you. Rachel doesn't know. I don't think she does. The foreclosure notice went to a P.O. box registered in Marcus's name only. I sat back, the pieces falling into place. The urgency to move in. The immediate need for space. The way Marcus had slowly isolated me from my own daughter, reframing every reasonable boundary as toxic behavior. What do I do? Legally? It's your house. You can evict them. Given the circumstances, you'd be well within your rights. She's pregnant. I understand. That's a personal decision, not a legal one. But Robert, He leaned forward. You need to understand what's happening here. This man is a con artist. He's isolated your daughter from you, taken control of her finances, convinced her that you're the problem. That's textbook manipulation. How do I prove it to her? That's the hard part. Victims of financial abuse often can't see it until they're forced to. But I can give you the documentation. What you do with it is up to you. I drove back to the hotel with a folder full of court documents, financial records, proof of Marcus's fraud. My phone had been silent all week, but as I pulled into the parking lot, it rang. Rachel. Dad? Her voice was small, scared. Something's wrong. The bank called about the house. They said you stopped the automatic payment, but Marcus said you'd been paying the mortgage all along. I don't understand. I closed my eyes. Where's Marcus? He went to handle it. But Dad, if there's no mortgage, where has all that money been going? I think you know the answer to that, sweetheart. Silence on the line. Then, quietly, can you come home? Is Marcus there? No. He said he'd be gone all day. I made it to the house in 20 minutes. Rachel was on the front porch, looking younger than she had in months. She'd been crying. Tell me the truth, she said as I climbed the steps. About everything. So I did. I showed her the court documents, the proof of fraud, the evidence of every lie Marcus had told. She read through it all in silence, her hand on her belly, tears streaming down her face. I'm so stupid. No, you're not stupid. You're a victim. How did I not see it? Because he's good at what he does, and because I raised you to trust people, to see the best in them. That's not a flaw, Rachel. That's who you are. She looked up at me then, and I saw my little girl again. I kicked you out of your own house. He kicked me out. He just used you to do it. I let him. I chose him over you. You chose what you thought was right for your family. That's what parents want, Rachel, for their children to stand on their own. But I wasn't standing. I was drowning, and didn't even know it. We sat on the porch together, watching the street where she'd learned to ride a bike, where Margaret and I had pushed her stroller, where we'd waved her off to prom, to college, to her wedding. What do I do now? She asked. Now we get you safe, and then we deal with Marcus. She nodded, then looked at me. I'm so sorry, Dad. I know, sweetheart. I know. We were inside, packing Rachel's things, when Marcus came back. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene my return. Rachel's suitcases, the papers spread across the dining room table. What's going on? I know, Rachel said quietly. About everything. The fraud, the foreclosure, the lies. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation. Rachel, whatever he told you, cours documents don't lie, Marcus. Those are old. From before we met. I've changed. You lied to me. Every single day. About your job. About money. About my father. I protected you. From his controlling behavior. From his grief. You isolated me. Her voice was steady now, strong. You convinced me my father was the problem when you were robbing us both. Robbing? I never, Rachel. Everything I did was for us. For our future. There is no us. She picked up her purse. I'm leaving. I'm filing for divorce. And you have 48 hours to get out of this house. You can't do that. You're pregnant with my child. Which is exactly why I need to leave. I won't raise a child in a house built on lies. Marcus's mask finally slipped. The charm, the concern, the smooth talking all dropped away, leaving something cold and angry underneath. You'll regret this, both of you. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of father kicks out his pregnant daughter. I didn't kick her out. You did. And everyone's going to know exactly who you are, Marcus. I'm making sure of that. I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. I've sent everything to your former clients, your family, Rachel's friends. They all know now about the fraud, the manipulation, the lies. His face went white. You had no right. I had every right to protect my daughter. For a moment, I thought he might get violent. His hands clenched, his jaw worked, but Rachel stepped between us, her hand on her stomach. Get out, Marcus, now. He looked at her, then at me, then back at her. Whatever he saw in her eyes made him realize it was over. You'll come back, he said as he grabbed his keys. When you realize how hard it is, raising a kid alone, You'll come crawling back. No, Rachel said. I won't. Because I'm not alone. I have my father. He left. We watched from the window as he peeled out of the driveway, probably for the last time. Rachel turned to me, her eyes full of tears but her spine straight. Can I really stay? This is your home, sweetheart. It always has been. Even after everything I said? Everything I let him do to you? I pulled her into a hug, careful of her belly. Especially after all that. Parents don't stop loving their children because they make mistakes. We just hope they learn from them. She sobbed into my shoulder, and I held her like I used to when she was small, when a skinned knee or a broken toy was the worst thing in her world. We spent the next few months rebuilding. Rachel started therapy, dealing with the trauma of financial and emotional abuse. I went with her to a few sessions, learning how to support her without enabling, how to set healthy boundaries. The divorce was ugly but quick. Marcus contested it, tried to claim parental rights, but his fraud record worked against him. The judge granted Rachel full custody with supervised visitation, only if he could stay clean, which seemed unlikely. Rachel moved back into her old room, the one Marcus had wanted for the nursery. We painted it together, picked out furniture, prepared for my grandson. Daniel Robert was born on a cold December morning, 7 pounds, 6 ounces, with his mother's eyes and a grip that could make a grown man cry. I held him in the hospital, this tiny human who represented hope after so much darkness, and made him a promise. I'll teach you about respect, about honesty, about standing up for yourself without tearing others down. I'll show you that real strength is admitting when you're wrong and fighting like hell to make it right. Rachel watched from the bed, exhausted and beautiful. Thank you, Dad, for everything, for not giving up on me. Never, I said, kissing Daniel's forehead. Not ever. We settled into a routine. Rachel and Daniel in her room, me in mine. The house that had been too quiet was full of life again, baby cries at 3 a.m., toys scattered across the living room, laughter over breakfast. The roses Margaret loved are blooming again this spring. I tend them while Rachel sits in the garden with Daniel, telling him stories about his grandmother. About the woman who taught me that love means protecting your family even when it's hard, even when it costs you everything. Marcus calls sometimes, leaving messages about wanting to be a father, about how we've poisoned Rachel against him. We don't respond. Some people never learn. But Rachel did. She's in school now, getting her accounting degree. Says she wants to help other women recognize financial abuse before it's too late. Turn her mistakes into meaning. That's my daughter. The one I raised. The one who got lost for a while, but found her way back. Last week, she was putting Daniel down for a nap when she stopped by my study. The one I got back, with Margaret's desk returned to its proper place. Dad? I never said thank you. For what? For showing me what real love looks like. For not enabling me, even when it would have been easier. For walking away when you had to and coming back when I needed you. That's what parents do, sweetheart. No, she shook her head. That's what good parents do, and I'm going to do the same for Daniel, no matter what. I smiled, looking at the photo of Margaret on my desk. Your mother would be proud of you. I hope so. I'm trying to be the woman she raised. You are. You absolutely are. She kissed my cheek and headed upstairs. I heard her singing softly to Daniel, the same lullaby Margaret used to sing to her. The house is full again, not with lies or manipulation or toxic demands, but with love and second chances and the understanding that family means protecting each other even from ourselves sometimes. My keys are warm in my palm as I lock up for the night. But this time I'm not leaving. I'm staying right where I belong. Home.